I just didn't want to let another generation of women have to go through what Joe and I went through.
Jass Stothard, co-founder of Luna, a health and well-being platform dedicated to teens. Why solve this particular problem?
Why solve this problem? Because it's a massive problem that needs to be solved. Nobody's looking after teen health, and that is where the issues lie today with young people. Mental health just wasn't a thing. Periods aren't shameful. Those things are often not talked about enough. And not having the knowledge, the confidence to have these really important conversations about either their physical or their mental well-being. Some of those early years, they did knock my confidence. And I don't want any girl to ever feel like that. Something I really want every girl to know is that actually, you don't have to look the same as other people, and you are unique and you will be on your own journey, whether that's physically or mentally or careers-wise. That for me was at times really difficult. I go home Mum, why are they laughing at me? Why are they asking me these things? This is a digital native generation. They need a digital first platform, especially with the rise of social media platforms where they are going to get their information. It's no longer Google. It's let me search this up on TikTok, which is a really scary but true realization.
What keeps you going?
It's really hard because I think if you do have, in my culture, is you just don't do that.
Welcome to today's episode, where we're joined by Jass Stothard. Jass, welcome.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
And thank you for accepting my invitation. So before we get into anything, I know you're the founder of Luna, but people listening to this pod don't know what Luna is. If you can just touch on that slightly.
Of course. So Luna is a digital health and wellbeing app for teenage girls. And we're an AI-enabled platform currently serving over 100,000 members in over 150 different countries.
Wow, big numbers.
Big numbers, small team.
I must say, Jass, and we spoke about this before we started the pod as well, I heard your co-founder, Joe, talking at an event. And from the time she spoke on stage, I was blown away. I was like, oh my God, that's a brilliant idea. Why has this idea never existed before? Why do you think?
Oh, honestly, it's a great question, Asim. And honestly, I would be a low-key millionaire for the amount of times a woman would have said to me, I wish I had this app when I was younger.
I can imagine.
So truthfully, I think a couple of reasons why it maybe hasn't existed. I think an app like Luna or a platform like Luna is needed now more than ever with the rise of social media, smartphones, misinformation online. Obviously, back in the day when I was at school, yes, there was a lack of information, but there wasn't this misinformation spread that exists today. And second of all, I think people have always assumed that maybe something like this, did exist. And to be honest, we were quite shocked when we were doing our market research to see, okay, yes, there are things popping up in the menopause space, the fertility space, the period space, but nobody's looking after teen health. And this is a digital native generation. They need a digital first platform. So in truth, we don't know the reason why it hasn't existed today, but we're very excited to be the first ones in building for it.
Well, I'm glad you guys are the first one building. And that's what I told Joe at that time in the event as well. I know you guys are focusing on teenage girls, but really I'm sure there's a big market for teenage boys as well. Because it's the misinformation, which is a problem. Again, before the pod, we were talking about AI and all the other things. So we're now coming into this whole space where there's a blurred line between what's real and what's not. It's not just misinformation. It's the scale at which you're able to create that misinformation as well. Yeah. So, with deep fake and just so much out there. And us as adults are having a hard time and we're scared for what the future is going to hold. And I'm just thinking, oh my God, now the younger generation, you just add that another layer of confusion.
Exactly, especially when their brains haven't fully formed, decision-making, you're still learning about all these things. And at times, we are influenced sometimes by the things that look the best or sound the best. And, somebody or something could be giving you information that looks and sounds very real. It's been edited really well, but actually in truth there's no real substance behind it. And I think that is where the issues lie today with young people, especially with the rise of social media platforms where they are going to get their information. It's no longer Google. It's let me search this up on TikTok, which is a really scary but true realization.
Jass, take me back a little bit. So who's Jass and where has Jass come from? Obviously, the theme of this podcast is immigrant founders, and we speak to founders who are either immigrants or they come from immigrant backgrounds. So if you can touch a little bit on that.
Absolutely. So I am from South London, but my heritage is half Maltese and half Armenian Lebanese. So
it's a very interesting mix.
Very interesting mix. And I'd be surprised if you've met someone with that mix before. Yeah.
And I grew up in Dubai and I've seen a lot of mixes, but that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, pretty rare, I can't lie. But because of that, I am really proud of my heritage. I think it's what makes me unique. People often ask me about my surname, where is it from? It's Maltese. It's actually very common in Malta, actually. When you get to the island, you'll see Shkembri everywhere. But here, it's not common at all. I was brought up really close to my grandparents, and so, learned Armenian as a language. It was my second language, and was just brought up really with Armenian and Maltese culture at home quite a lot. But I was born and raised here in London, as you can tell by my accent. And yeah, just still feel very proud of who I am. Got married in the Armenian church, and hope that my future children will also feel very strongly affiliated with my cultures, despite the fact I've married an English man.
Well, I think maybe there's this thing about immigrant families when they immigrate to any country in the world. I think they try and keep their heritage as close to their heart as possible.
Definitely.
So perhaps that will follow in your children as well.
I hope so. I know my husband had to get christened actually in the Armenian church before he got married to me.
He had to, or was he forced?
Yeah,
bit of
both really. Yeah, when he actually met my mum for the first time, she made him watch my Big Fat Greek Wedding, and there's he gets baptized in this film, and my mum was basically like, "This will be you if you marry my daughter."
And she was serious.
She was serious.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Yeah.
Talk me through a little bit about your family. When they moved here, and how was that like for you growing up as a young kid? And off the back of that, how has that transformed or translated into the woman that you've become today?
Yeah, really good question. So like I said, I was born here. My dad immigrated here when he was really young, actually. And then my mum a lot later in her life when she met my dad, actually. And one common theme that I think runs throughout my life really is the importance of education that both my mum and my dad always put on me, and then also my siblings. I think to them, and probably to many other immigrants, education is something you can't take from someone, no matter the hardships that they're facing. And so for them, us having a good education, or at least trying our best when it comes to education, was really important. They also didn't go to university, so there was that added pressure of, well, we really want you all to go to university as well, and we want you all to do well. So I'd say education is something that my parents always really invested in for us. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that we went to like the best schools in the country, but where we needed extra help, they would dedicate time to us. And yeah, as such, I went to local grammar school, and it was always my mum's dream for me to end up going to Oxford. I was a bit naughty in my undergrad and pulled my application out last minute. She was not happy with that, but finally made her dream come true when I went to do my master's at Oxford. So I did my MBA, which is where I met my co-founder Joe, and the idea for Luna came from, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit later. So I think education is definitely something that really sort of defined us as a family. A lot of my friends in primary school didn't understand why is she working so hard, but I think my parents saw the potential in all of us and really pushed us to do our homework, do all the additional Kumon and things like that. So I think that's one thing. And I guess secondly, as an immigrant, from an immigrant family, should I say, I think I always felt a bit different to some of my friends, mainly in terms of how I looked often. So like I mentioned, in primary school, not only was I feeling quite different in terms of education, but also in terms of how I looked. So I had very dark hair, dark features, went through the puberty journey a bit differently to everyone. And that for me was at times really difficult. And I go home like, Mum, why are they laughing at me? Why are they asking me these things? Da, da, da. And at the time, my mum would reassure me on it. It's fine. You're normal. You're special, actually. Like, you're unique. And again, the reason I say this is because today I run a health and wellbeing app for teen girls, and something I really want every girl to know is that actually, like, you don't have to look the same as other people, and you are unique, and you will be on your own journey, whether that's like physically or mentally or careers wise or whatever. And I think some of those early years, they did knock my confidence. And I don't want any girl to ever feel like that. And I think, in London, we are lucky. It's super multicultural, loads of different nationalities and things like that. But there are pockets of society where that isn't the case. And there are probably still girls out there feeling like how younger me felt, and boys as well. So yeah, that's definitely something that also sticks out in my childhood, and something I feel very passionate about through the work I do today.
It's interesting how our, childhood, how much of an impact our childhood has on our adulthood. Do you think, being a father is tough. Like, I can relate. And again, we spoke about a lot of the things before we started this pod. But do you think your work ethic, or the way you operate today, you think your family and the push that your family did while you were growing up, it was just education, but then do you think that has now translated into how you operate as a founder?
Definitely. I think that I always had to succeed, no matter what that looked like, in terms of whether that was working additional hours or going the extra mile. If I did get a no or rejection, trying again and trying to understand, what was the reason I didn't get it and how can I be better? And I think a lot of that comes down to wanting to make my parents proud, whether that was when I was an 11-year-old girl or now as a 33-year-old woman, because they sacrificed so much for us in our upbringing. And so you want to give back. And I think that's probably something that really resonates with other immigrant founders, and maybe other founders in general as well. But I think it helps you have a certain sense of resilience and grit, that you're not going to take no for an answer, that you're going to make it happen because you want to make your parents proud, but also, I don't know, you're just used to just getting on with it and making it happen, I guess.
Yeah, no, and really, I think you only fail if you stop, and if you just keep getting on with it, and if you just keep on going, eventually you will succeed.
Definitely.
So I'm glad that you are here today and having this conversation. I'm also glad, once again, I absolutely love Luna and what you guys are doing and the mission behind it. And it's also nice how your story links to it, because you growing up, you didn't have that, you had a problem, you didn't have a solution. It's also interesting, before Luna, the solution still does not exist. So that's like a long time. But talk me through, okay, so Luna, as it stands today, yes, you had a problem, but why solve this particular problem?
Why solve this problem? Because it's a massive problem that needs to be solved. And truthfully, I just didn't want to let another generation of women have to go through what Joe and I went through, which was a lack of information, really, and not having the knowledge, the confidence to have these really important conversations about either their physical or their mental well-being. But also, if we weren't going to do it, then I knew in a few years' time, somebody else would get to it. And I would be forever kicking myself if, I watched another founder or corporate go after this space, because it's a huge opportunity to make a massive impact, but also to grow a thriving business as well. So
we were also talking about fundraising.
Yes, we were.
And the fun stuff about fundraising. So talk me through that journey as well, because, I met Joe in an event when we were, the event was based around the disparity between men and women in the tech space. But I think that's not limited to tech space. I think it's just the working space in general. And that disparity really is not only when you look at different positions in a company, but it's also the funds that are, allocated towards founders who are men versus women and so on. So talk me through, so fundraising is hard. And I think there's a lot of different layers of hard depending on the stage that you're at and so on. So talk me through your fundraising journey so far and, a little bit of also touching on the slight difficulties that you've had, or maybe a lot of difficulties you've had around that.
Absolutely. And I don't think it's just men and women. So I don't think it's just a gender conversation. I think there's also a background and a background conversation really as well. So, like where you were educated, who you know as well. And I think those things are often not talked about enough, but are a dynamic that impacts fundraising as well. Because obviously if you were educated at certain schools, you have a certain network, and gosh, network is definitely a huge part of fundraising. So I just wanted to throw that in the mix because I do think that is, like I said, a dynamic which should also be addressed alongside gender differences.
I agree.
But in terms of us, so Joe and I actually both have careers, or had careers in consulting, shall I say. So not from an entrepreneurship background. We've never started anything before. And so we were coming to Luna with sort of never having raised money before and not really having any network in terms of VCs or angels or anything. So we've actually raised £1.5 million to date, over 2 tranches. So the first tranche was when we just had an idea. Nobody knew who we were. They just saw 2 Deloitte consultants on a page and truthfully probably had no idea that we could execute and that we could actually make puberty cool. I mean, I think about it now, like 2 girls being like, yeah, we're going to talk about body hair and periods, we're going to make it cool. I can imagine like investors being like, sorry, what are these millennials doing? Exactly. And so the first raise was very much going to people that we knew and leaning on that consulting network that we'd actually built. So if there's anyone listening to this thinking, I don't know anyone in VC and angels, if you've worked in corporates, you'd be surprised at the number of people who will get behind you. So that's how we pitched it. We went back to our old bosses that we worked with and just went back and said, look, you've seen us execute. We have this idea. Are you interested in putting some angel money into Luna? There's some amazing tax benefits as well. And so we did that. We got a little bit of capital together and then started cold calling angels as well. What I would say with our angel approach is that it was super targeted, Asim. So we didn't do like a spray and pray approach. We really researched every angel, sent targeted emails. And I think I sent around 220 cold emails and only 2 ever got back to me, just to put some into context. But one of the angels did invest and then he introduced us to lots of people. And that basically helped us close the first round. So that was then used to get the product off the ground, actually like hire a tech team in and launch the app. And then around 12 months later, we did a top-up round. At this point, we have about 50,000 members on the platform and we wanted to focus on monetization. And it was here that we'd started to get a little bit of early press. We started to go to tech events and started to meet other VCs and angels. And we got a few first check funds, so first checks from VCs who'd come in, a few more prominent angels. And then we did something else that we didn't know existed. We used an SPV to actually top up our round. And we did this really publicly on LinkedIn. And we got random people who me and Joe had like never met who were interested in Luna because we'd always talked about what we're building online. And they committed, and I think we raised £150,000. So in total, we did sort of £600,000 the first time, and then about another 900,000 to top it up to like 1.5. So over 2 tranches. Yeah, it's been a journey, and it still is.
To say the least.
Yeah, it still is a journey, but I think you just have to be strategic about it. And when no one knows you, sometimes you just have to go to the people who know you first, who will back you. You build a little bit of your profile, you show people you can execute and you can do this, and then they'll be more willing to come in once you've done that.
Yeah, I mean, fundraising, like anything else, I mean, it's sales. It's a numbers game. So having an ICP like a close target and then sending them, hyper targeted messaging.
Definitely.
Like you would do for your, if you're selling a product, for example. But I think what's really interesting, off the back of 200, outreach that you did, you got that one yes. So, for anyone listening, the power of that one yes and the ripple effect you have off the back of that just changes 100%. The trajectory of whatever you're doing. So the importance of keeping going is underrated.
Absolutely.
Because all you need is that one yes. And that can change everything.
Everything. And I remember that Easter weekend, and I sat and drafted all these emails, and I remember feeling really low, being like, no one's going to fund us, like nobody wants to invest. But I thought, no, I've got to keep going with this. And finally that one yes popped up. And actually you asked me what are some of the challenges? And I think one of the challenges was not knowing anyone and having to do this cold outreach and just having to be resilient and just keep going. And I do think that is naturally a challenge of anyone who hasn't fundraised before, or who isn't born into a network. And that's why when you do have that yes, you've got to ask for can I have more interest? You just got to not be embarrassed about it. For me, asking for money in my culture is you just don't do that. And so actually fundraising as a whole, I was just give me the ick, I don't want to do it. But I just spent all my money on an MBA, Asim. There were no pounds in my bank account. I had to do it. And then you've got to go and ask. So yeah, it's a journey, it's a process, and it's still going. I've got to do it again in a few months.
So for people who do not know what is an SPV, can you elaborate on that? And if someone wants to go that route, how do they do it?
Yes, and I wish we knew what an SPV was in the first tranche of funding, because I do really think they're super powerful. So there's obviously crowdfunding, which is where you can go to the mass market, mass population, and you can set your minimum is something as low as £10, really. And then somebody can own a tiny bit of your company. An SPV is basically like this, but you set the minimum a bit higher. So for us, our minimum was £1,000. Plus, you don't go to the mass market per se. You have a bit more selection in terms of who can come into the round and who can't come into the round. And you still get the same tax benefits. It just actually makes angel investing more accessible. And I just think more people should know about it, because there are people who have money that they are looking to invest. And I don't think they realise that they can actually invest in startups. And to my surprise, a lot of my friends actually decided to go into the round. It feels really scary having them as investors, and having taken their money, but it also motivates me to make this work even more. Even my younger brother's come in actually, just more to think that he's an investor. But I really recommend everyone to explore it. And there are basically lots of different platforms that you can explore to do this. And instead of then having, say, 100 different investors on your cap table, you have it under these SPV vehicles at one line on the cap table. So it looks super clean, and it's all sort of done via these tools, and there are loads of them to look into.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. They come in as a nominee structure.
Exactly, that's
correct.
It.
It's just your cap table looks a lot cleaner.
Exactly.
I think when you even crowdfund these days, there are a few companies, online platforms that do it, and I think now the new structure is also through a nominee structure. Yeah. Because we did a crowdfunding round initially, and we had more than 130, 140 investors sitting on our cap table.
Really?
But then the second crowdfunding round that we did, they introduced a nominee structure. So again, there were loads of investors, but they came in a nominee structure similar to the SPV. But again, it was crowdfunding, like you rightly said, £10, £20, £50, and so on.
That said, if you are building a consumer business like we are, the power of these investors is massive.
So absolutely.
You're
hitting two birds with one stone as well.
100%. Whether that's social media posts,
for sure,
introductions to schools, introductions to their employers. And so I think for some businesses, it's actually a bit of a marketing tool for them as well. So for us, it made sense. Obviously, it doesn't make sense for every business, but I think for mine and for yours, it obviously did.
For sure. Jass, so when is the right time to fundraise? So, I mean, talking about your journey, obviously, you had an idea, you got a co-founder, you started building. How did you know now is the right time to raise?
Look, Asim, it's not easy, because the first fundraise we did was at the time when the market was really good for fundraising. And so to be able
And this was back in...
This was May 2022.
Okay.
So it's just...
Okay, just before the dip,
Yeah. And I think to be able to raise £600,000 off just an idea, no traction, you know, 2 consultants, never built anything before, I think that's like pretty good and pretty rare. And I think, obviously I'm not a VC, I'm not an investor, but my understanding is that would be pretty hard to do now. I think investors are looking for a bit more. And I think they would probably want some traction, some sort of product out to market. All we had was a stitched together no code version of the platform, which we piloted with 100 teenagers, stuck together with Excel sheets, YouTube videos. It was not sexy or glamorous at all, but the point is they used it. So I think it's a difficult question because everyone's in different scenarios. Some people can bootstrap it, some people can't bootstrap it. Some people's businesses have proven models, others don't. Some are in sexier industries than others. And so in truth, I don't really think there is a unanimously great time to fundraise. I think it just really depends on the founder and the business and the market as well. But I would say if you have some traction, if you're able to show some early revenue or at least like some indicator that someone will pay for it or that you at least have a pathway to revenue, then I would say go for it. But more and more companies aren't externally fundraising. You know, lots of people are taking loans or bootstrapping and stuff like that. They're options like I just didn't have access to at the time, but would have considered if I didn't spend all my money on my MBA. But then I wouldn't have had Luna. So, you know.
Yeah, I think the power of having the right co-founder especially, I mean, you really can't put a dollar value on that, right? And then it's just, it is literally make or break 100%. Your business, like literally. And I can resonate. My mom's also invested in our company, so I can relate to your friends and family investing. People trying to start a business today, especially women, perhaps. The market condition, as we both know, and people in this pod as well know, the economic condition in the last almost 24 months has just been on a decline. Perhaps it's in a upward trend, hopefully by next year. But as it stands today, it has been in that space for quite some time now. You spoke about your background, not taking no for an answer and just going for it and just working hard. But if the market is so bad, what do you do? I mean, do you not start a business if you really want to? Do you wait it out? What would you advise?
It's really hard because I think if you do have an idea and it's on your mind and you feel like your personal conditions are right and it's the right time, I do think you should just try and go for it because life and things can change like very quickly. I think the way to approach it is like time boxing it. So what is the longest amount of time you can go for potentially without a salary, doing the founder life before you're actually like, I need to now make some money or be earning or have a bit more stability, which would come obviously with fundraising, right? Or having a more stable business. And that's really what Joe and I did. So, after our MBA programs, truthfully, I think both of us were like, right, we're going to go and get amazing corporate jobs. Our parents are going to be so proud of our salaries. We can finally treat them and take them everywhere they want. And then we went to them and we're like, so actually...
we're not going to make any money.
We're not going to make any money. Like, I have to move back with my grandparents, like all these things. But, it's the future. Like, please believe in this. But what we said was, look, let's give it a year. Let's try and build something. Let's try and fundraise. And if we can do it and get something off the ground, we keep going. And if not, we call it a day. We can just about survive a year with, support from our husbands, parents, grandparents. And we're really lucky to have good educations, a good network. Like, we will hopefully be able to find other jobs. And so I think that sort of thinking, which I guess is logical risk taking is a good way to approach it. Some people will have longer amounts of times they can do that for. Some people have shorter amounts of times. And I think it's just a really good milestone to work towards and just check in, like, is it working? Is it taking off or not? And if it's a yes, great, keep going. If it's a no, park it for now, maybe reconsider it. That's probably what I would do. But that's maybe the inner consultant if me talking.
No, it's true though, because I mean, obviously everyone has a different journey, different stages of life. And, I mean, it's just easy to say, no, just keep going. But I mean, you also have to eat food.
100%.
At the end of the day, you need to put a roof over your head.
Exactly.
So not everyone is in the same situation and has the same network or support system around them as well. But I think that's really interesting. Time blocking, I think I think that is also like a self-check. Okay, so you keep a timeline for yourself, and after this, if things happen, great. If they don't, at least you tried. Definitely. But I think before this, when you also said, and I can really resonate with that, when you said something down the lines of, because you knew it's such a great idea, and it was just a matter of time. If you didn't do it, somebody else would do it, and if you saw someone else doing it, you'd just be so gutted. And I think it's one of those, right? You never want to live with a what if. Oh shit, what if I did this? Things could have been different. So I think giving it a go, even if that time blocking or that timeline is, I don't know, 30 days, whatever. Or maybe it's your side hustle, whatever it is. But I would encourage people to just go for it.
I agree. And now we are seeing people enter this space. Like I'm seeing people trying to tap into this market, but I'm like, okay, well, we already have a community globally. Like we saw the opportunity 2 years ago. It's now being validated, which is great, but also we now need to move and own it. So yes, I am glad we took the risk. Don't get me wrong, there's been so many sacrifices along the way, which I'm sure you'll resonate with as well. But it's been the best thing, the best decision that I've made.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Also having competition definitely is a validation.
100%.
Like thank God there's competition, because there is now, things are changing. And
absolutely, because at the time, angels and investors were like,
why isn't someone else doing it?
Exactly. Which is what you asked me at the start. Is there something wrong with this market, or maybe you can't monetize it? Maybe this is, not a VC backable business. But now seeing competitors enter it, that it just shows actually people are seeing opportunity in this, and fortunately we are ahead of the curve there.
So you're in the D2C or B2C space.
Yeah.
Slightly different from what we're doing. Mm-hmm. We actually started in the B2C or D2C space, and now we've pivoted into the B2B space. And I found it, every space has its own challenges. I found it quite a different set of challenge. It's different when you're dealing with a corporate, and then you're able to, talk to their entire employee pool versus, one parent after another parent or user. So, people trying to enter the space, what are the things they should be mindful of? What are the pitfalls that you've learned from, you guys are app-based, right? Mobile app. So, app stores, Google Play versus iOS, what is better? Do you need both? So I think really what I'm trying to come to is the challenges within the D2C space overall, because there's a lot of novelty when you look at and for me at least there was a lot of novelty where I was like, oh my God, I really want to be in the B2C space, simply because the brand affinity is on a different level, because you've got Instagram and TikTok and whatever, and you can make it a trend, and you can do this and you can do that. But for me, the expectation versus reality was completely different. Like I was like, oh my God, this is so bloody hard.
It is hard.
It's so bloody hard. And then there's a recurring revenue element into it. But I'm not going to digress into this. I'm making my question too long. But really the B2C space, like what are the initial challenges you would say?
It's a really good question. And whilst we are B2C now, I think that is just phase one of what we're doing. I do actually see like a B2B to C angle in this in the future. But I think the hardest thing with B2C is really, like you said, like building a brand and getting a name out there for yourself, especially when you're trying to cut through other brands that already exist tangentially to this market. Why should people download your app? Why should people give you a follow, especially when you're dealing with, like I said before, puberty, which can be a somewhat taboo, not sexy topic. And so for us, and I'm sure many other brands starting out, it's, what's going to make you different, what's going to make someone follow your brand and want to use, your products versus somebody else's. And doing that in a way that obviously keeps your costs low at the start, because you don't have a massive marketing budget to just blow and spend on billboards or, fancy PR stunts or whatever. At the start, you got to be like hustling and doing it on a pretty cheap budget. And I would say like the power for us that we unlocked was the community. So the community of teenagers who actually started creating content for us. And what happened one day, Asim, was a teenager messaged in like, hey, like I made this TikTok about Luna, and it's like a get ready with me while I tell you about this app, like can you post it on your TikTok? And I was like, oh, I don't really know how I feel about posting a teenager on our TikTok, even though we are an app for teens. Can I speak to your mum about it? So I rang the mum. She was like, oh yeah, Lily's trying to be an influencer. I'm happy with you posting this. So, got the document signed, I give permission, post it, and we went viral.
Really?
Yeah. And we were like, okay, maybe there is something in this community-led growth. It means our costs of content creation are, pretty cheap, because it's just the community posting stuff. Plus, it really resonates more than me and Joe on the feed, which is what we were doing before. And that's how it really started, because then people were like in the comments, like recommending each other. And yeah, community word of mouth basically just built this brand about girlhood and teenhood. And I think that is really like a huge differentiator for our brand, that we are built for teens, but with teens as well. Now, obviously, we're doing the same thing, but for parents, because we now need to be reaching more parents to educate them on like the benefits their teens are getting from Luna. So in short, that was now a very long message or way of saying every consumer business needs to find a cheap way of reaching their audience, or a budget way of reaching their audience, whatever that looks like, wherever they may be. And for us, it was teens hang out on TikTok. So we just put 2 and 2 together. And just being true to your brand and your identity. Like, I look at other brands out there, some of it looks really glossy and sometimes not very friendly, but it looks aesthetically pleasing. But that's not what Luna's about. Like, we are friendly, we are real people, we don't use models, everything's community led. And so we don't look the same as other accounts and other brands, but that's what makes us different. And I think that as well is something that companies or D2C companies should consider as well. Like, what do you want to be known for? Ignore what other people are doing and just build for that, really.
That's really, power of community. We talk about this internally as well. You and I are trying to work on our personal brands, for example. You've got an audience, but then you have a community. I think the power of community is way bigger than the power of audience. And people buy from people. Obviously, that's where you're trying to put your face out there, and Joe is trying to do the same. But then people buy from people. That is just on steroids if you have the power of community backing you, because now there's so many different people who other people are buying from.
Definitely.
That's immense power.
Yeah, it really, really is. And I think people just trust other people's recommendations, especially when it comes to health and well-being, right? Especially parents. Oh, well, what's your teen using? What products are they using? What apps do you trust? So actually community is really important for us, and a referral just goes way further than putting money behind ads or billboards or whatever you want to call it.
So your reason now to target parents obviously comes from the point of monetization.
Absolutely, yeah.
Can you talk me through that a little bit?
Of course. So phase 1 of Luna was all about creating a product and a brand that teenagers want to use and engage with, and a brand that teens are proud to say they're associated with. So teens are proud to say they use Luna. There is nothing taboo or shameful about it. So much so, like I said, they're posting on their own TikToks, referring their friends using their referral codes because they love the product so much. Someone actually sent me a screenshot to one of the members. They have a 750-day streak, which is basically as old as Luna, which is crazy.
Wow.
I know.
That's impressive.
Yes. So I like to think we've done a pretty good job in doing that. I think there are so many more product updates, features we want to launch, but as a basic MVP in terms of product and brand. I'm feeling good about it. TikTok just runs itself. We get downloads organically overnight. It's doing its thing. Great. Millennial is feeling good for reaching Gen Z and Gen Alpha.
Let's go, Millennial.
Let's go. Millennial now needs to tap into parents, which I'm not. I've never been a parent before, at least I've been a teenager. And yes, to your point, parents are the payers of our product. And now it's all about reaching them. They have different behaviors. Parents are time poor, unlike teenagers who have loads of time to scroll on TikTok. Yeah, I'll make you content. I'll do this. I'm happy to input this. Parents are running around, for themselves, but also for their families. So we are having to reach them in different ways. The messaging has to be quite different. They're not as interested in whether this is a cool product. They want to know it's trusted, it's expert based. Like who's behind this thing? What advice is my teen getting? And so it really is a completely different marketing strategy, which I am fully immersing myself in now and learning so much about. But yeah, that's how it is. So phase 1 is being delivered, it keeps going, but now phase 2, it's parents and getting them on board to do it. So any parents watching, get yourself on Luna.
you know where to find Jass and Luna.
Exactly.
It's interesting, Jass, you spoke about these young girls, sharing, and they're proud to, they don't feel the stigma when they talk about Luna. Why do you think that is the case? Because obviously we're in the mental health space as well, and as you know, there's a lot of stigma around mental health. And yes, definitely there is a lot of stigma around puberty and periods and all those elements. Is it a generational thing, or what is it?
Yeah, I do think there is some element that is a generational thing. And when I think back to my time at school, dare I say it, 20 years ago now, mental health just wasn't a thing.
Right.
It wasn't even a word, really. I don't think it was. Whereas today, we are talking about mental health all the time. It is to some extent in the school curriculum, obviously down to every school in terms of how much they want to teach it and support it. I think every school is doing their best. But I think it's just something young people are now taught about, or at least are hearing it being talked about from a very young age. And as such, because it's talked about so much, it's less of a stigma. And I'm really proud to hear that. It was only yesterday that one of our brand ambassadors messaged me like, Jass, I need to take a little bit of a step back from being a brand ambassador, like dealing with some mental health things. I have to go, of course it's fine. Like, I'm really glad you're setting boundaries for yourself at 15 years old. Like, please go and do your thing. This should not be stressful whatsoever. So yeah, I think it's just about it being talked about more. Don't get me wrong. I don't think every teenager is potentially as open as others. I think heritage and culture can sometimes have a bit of a role in it, and how open parents are to talking about these things, how open-minded they are to realizing that actually, yes, mental health is a real thing, or actually, periods aren't shameful. But that's where Luna comes in, right? To educate these teenagers and their parents to say, period pains can be like really bad, and if this happens, like, you do need to see a doctor, or actually, like, if you're suffering this from a mental health perspective, like, you have to go and speak to your parent, and if they won't listen, then a teacher or somebody else. So whilst there is a portion of teens who are really happy to talk about these things, there are a portion that maybe aren't as comfortable, and yeah, that's where apps like Luna and other amazing platforms come into play.
I think it's the mode of delivery as well, would you say? Because obviously you're a mobile app, teens are always on a mobile, always on their mobile. They're either, consuming information from TikTok or Instagram or whatever. Well, maybe not Instagram. I think they're already too old for Instagram now, but definitely TikTok and Snapchat and whatever that may be. So I think it's because they're so used to that mode of delivery as well. So I think that normalization aspect comes from that element.
100%. Yeah, you have to meet them where they are. And it's really difficult because there's obviously a big movement around no smartphones for teenagers, no social media for teenagers. And I definitely think the social media element is 100% valid. I do think social media can be really toxic. But smartphones are different to social media. And I think there are some amazing apps, whether that's tutoring apps, educational apps, health apps like Luna, financial apps to help them with money management that, you know, teens and tweens are used to, because they've also been born with an iPad in their hand. You know, you go to a restaurant, there's an iPad. So it's really difficult, and obviously it's a really hot topic at the moment. And again, I'm not a parent. Perhaps my views will change if and when I do have children, but I do think they are digital natives, and so naturally, you know, they're used to phones or digital devices, whether that's an iPad, laptop, or a phone. And so I think having access to positive platforms which are safe and which are positive is really important.
Anything you think Luna or other businesses within your sector, especially when you are looking at younger generation, can do from your part in terms of safeguarding and in terms of ensuring that, you know, things are not dealt in a wrong way, perhaps?
Yeah, I think we're always asked about community and how you're doing that community piece. Obviously, we spoke about it before. And VCs, investors love community in apps or community in products or whatever. But truthfully, I think when it comes down to younger people, having open community is actually really quite dangerous. So in our app, there is no peer-to-peer communication. There is no commenting. Nobody knows who is on this app for safeguarding reasons, but also to control the narrative of the conversations. And the reason I say that is when we were doing our exploratory work with what else is out there, we were downloading a lot of mental health apps which did have community sort of forum style chats and conversations, and actually like a lot of the stuff there was quite negative. And if you'd gone on there perhaps with some mild mental health worries and anxieties, and you saw some of the other stuff that was on there, it could be really triggering. And yeah, it could actually maybe give you ideas that perhaps you weren't considering. And I think with a vulnerable audience of young people, it's really important to protect them from that. So I would definitely say, like, when you think about community, it doesn't have to just be them talking to each other digitally. Like, you can do community in other ways, like we do community-led social media. So, you know, we have brand ambassadors. We'll say, okay, here are 10 content briefs for the week. Who wants to film them? They send it in. Luna then like pushes it out. We also do events. So bring our ambassadors into our office, or, you know, run events with other brands. So we do like in real life stuff where, again, we can see what's going on and make sure everything is safe and okay. And so I would just consider anyone targeting this audience to consider different modes of community, because I just think it can get really messy when you've got young people giving people advice. I mean, you just need to open a viral TikTok and read the comments. You'll see it firsthand.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, this is exactly why I asked you this question, because I actually didn't think that you had this type of spin on the community. Because I mean, the first thing I would think about was, oh my God, like, I mean, this is, you know, full of teenagers, and then who's, you know, the safeguarding element, who's monitoring that, and you know, so all those parameters, and how many parameters can you really actually put in place? But it's really interesting. I think it's very smart how you have it somehow like a one-sided community. That's it, you know. So
just Luna and the member. It means that there's no judgment in terms of what they're looking at or asking. There's no one watching, oh, they like this, they commented this. There's no pressure. And I think that's what an app like this really needs. It needs to be a judgment-free, anonymous space. And that's why teens use Luna, right? Because there's no peer pressure on there. There's no, I have to look cool, or I have to ask this question, or I have to do this. It's just, yeah, like I said, one-sided, you and an app, and Luna controls the conversation, right? Everything there is going to be largely positive, and where someone does need help, we can spin it and make sure they get the right help that they need, rather than it becoming a very dark, you know, series of conversations and exchanges.
So community is definitely working for Luna.
Yes.
And would you say the community aspect, so I'm just trying to get to, you know, what's working for Luna and how.
Yeah.
So that how would potentially then be able to help other people who are perhaps trying to start something. So would you say, that there was a strategic reason this started? You guys wanted to do that anyway from the beginning, or it just happened to be that it just fell on your lap?
Yeah, very good question. I think it goes way back before this TikTok, actually, which is Joe and I had this idea at business school. It was actually part of a project on the MBA, the idea for Luna. You had to find a problem, come up with a solution, pitch it to investors, pitch it to your professors. And we pitched the idea for Luna. And actually, it was an investor from Octopus Ventures sitting on our panel who turned around and was like, this is actually a really good idea. Who's doing it after the MBA? And at the time, we were like, absolutely not me. But yeah, like I said before, we're going to these corporate jobs. It's going to be, a great life. But then actually over the summer, Joe and I got talking. It was actually Joe. She came up to me and she was like, I think I want to do this full time. Do you want to do it with me? And I was like, this girl is nuts. What is she talking about? But yeah, we got talking and we actually came back to the whole conversation around, actually, if we don't do it, maybe someone else will do it. There's a massive opportunity here. But I said, look, Joe, I think it sounds great in theory. Numbers all stack up, impact, it makes sense. But do teenagers actually want this? Girl, we are not teens. We are far from it. We need to go and speak to some of them. And so over the summer, what we did was basically set up conversations and workshops at our old schools. So Joe went to Yorkshire, I went to South London, and we spoke to 11, 12, 13, all the way up to 18-year-olds and just asked them, what do you use today? Do you have an app like Luna? What do you think of some of our early concepts? And anyway, we left these schools and then our inboxes started to get emails like, hey, Luna, where can we download the app? Hey, Luna, can I come code the app for you? Can I come do work experience? Hey, it was a really good session. We were like, oh, okay. Why have these teams got our emails? One. But actually, they really like what we're building. Maybe there is something in this and maybe we should lean into the power of the teenagers, because when we went to these schools, they were telling us we don't like the branding. We like this element, but we don't like this element. And actually a lot of our initial hypotheses were wrong.
Amazing.
And so what we realized is we really need them on the journey. And so from October 2021, which is when we really started taking Luna seriously after we graduated, we basically just started collecting these teenagers and they became our brand ambassadors from the jump. They were self-named the Luna Luminaries. And every week we would set them missions, Asim, hey, what do you think of this branding? Hey, what do you think of this logo? Hey, what do you think of this handle? And they would fill in surveys, would give us feedback. And now it's grown to nearly 500 ambassadors.
Wow.
Some who have left, obviously,
sure.
Some have dipped in, some more active than others. But in short, I don't think it just happened at this TikTok moment. I think it started from the minute we said go. And I think it was a blessing, because I don't think Luna would have been as successful as it is now without their input, because it would be bright purple and bright pink, which is not what teenagers want at all. The Luna would be in capitals. They didn't want that. They wanted lower caps. They've really been pivotal to our success. So yeah, community's been important since the jump, and I guess we kind of fell into it, but I'm so glad we leaned into it and kept going with it.
So there was a methodology behind the madness.
Yes, which we look back on now, but had never really formulated as a formal plan, let's just say.
It's interesting to hear all that, because when you did speak about that teenager reaching out to you and then you speaking to her mum, and off the back of that one post went viral, and that's why I really wanted to get to the crux of it, or to the core of it. Because why and how were you in that situation? Because, if you talk now, one could say that, oh shit, you guys got lucky. Wow, imagine if it didn't go viral, and imagine if she did not reach out to you. But it's so important to acknowledge the work that goes behind the scene for a long period of time until you reach to that pivotal moment.
Exactly.
So I think it's really important for all of us to understand the relentless hard work, and sometimes it's really strategic, sometimes it's a gamble, sometimes it's a mix of both, whatever.
Totally.
But I mean you leading up to that one point, which allowed you to then go viral on TikTok. I think that is off the back of all the hard work that has gone in.
Yeah, and I think you're right. There is a lot of hard work that goes into it. I think what I'm learning more and more with marketing is that you just have to try things. There isn't really a set formula. There is not. And sometimes you have to take risks. And we took a risk on this and it could have completely like danked. But, you know, really, what is the worst that could happen? You just archive.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, correct.
But in our case, we just did it and it really took off and it changed our TikTok strategy for the better. So, yeah. And we're trying to figure it out now with parents. And I hope next time we speak, I'll be like, yep, that was a pivotal point for us. And, you know, that really took off for us. So we're currently just trying to figure that all out now. So if anyone knows the secret sauce, DM me, please.
You know, actually, you're so right, because it's not just the industry. So obviously every industry is different. So, you know, you're in this industry X, I'm in industry Y. So there's, you know, some sort of a methodology behind these two industries. But then the problem is within the industry, every company is also different.
Totally.
And a company is different because it's a collective of people, because now every individual within that company is also different. So it really is very hard to, you know, come up with a playbook. And I know a lot of gurus on social media will try and sell you a playbook, but the reality is it's just test and learn, test and learn, test and learn. Just
Exactly.
keep repeating. And
They should be selling a series of tests.
that's it.
That everyone should be trying, and you do not give up. Like, just because you hear one no, it doesn't work. Like, you go again, and it's super manual and hacky at the start until you unlock that lever and you can start, you know, putting money behind it or hiring the right person to just churn it out. So if anyone listening is thinking that it happens easily, it doesn't. I'm back in hacky stage right now. It's painful, but it works. You have to do it. Everyone has to start somewhere.
Also, it's interesting because, you know, you're at this stage and you're doing all this hacky stuff, and then something works, and then you level up. But then again, you're testing and learning something else, and then you keep leveling up. It's like this game you play, and then you keep dying and coming back, dying and coming back. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
So, you know, talking about levers, what are in the last 3 months? What's the biggest lever that has worked for you?
Oh, well, the last 3 months, the focus has been on revenue generation and reaching more parents. So I think context there is really important in terms of what levers we've had to pull. I would say one lever that has been extremely important is our network. So those angels that invested in us, our friends, people around us who can make introductions to schools, because that's where parents are, to employers, because that's where parents are, to any organizations which have parents in it. And so network has been like one huge lever. And when I say, you know, asking them to make intros, you also have to do the legwork there. Like, I'm there writing every email for them to just forward on. I think, please don't think I'm being lazy, being like, oh yeah, I just called up my friend for an intro. Like, no, I'm creating the packs for them to send on, etc., etc. But I think that's been one thing. And the second lever, which has worked really well for us, has actually been finding influencers, so mum influencers that really resonate with what we're doing and who are happy to post on our behalf because their daughters love what we're doing and not necessarily expecting a payment or a high amount of payment, because they believe in the mission and the impact. And it's not always just mums, actually, it's dads, it's other organizations, local communities. And I think, again, that is like network effects, right? One post hits thousands, sometimes like millions of people. And so I think that for us has also been a really good lever for us to pull. Yeah, but we're still in that fact finding phase. I think those two have been really good for us. Again, it's taken a lot of hard work to find these people and message them and convince them to do this. But actually, like, what we do is we just, you know, give their daughters access to our app. Their daughters are then like, I love this platform. And then, of course, they're going to go and tell their friends about it. So again, it comes back to word of mouth again. So I think those two things for me.
So Jass, where is Luna heading towards? I know we kind of spoke about you, then fundraising, you're looking at revenue. What's the aspiration for Luna in the next 12 months?
The next 12 months, I want to take Luna's growth to the next level, really. So like I said before, in 150 different countries, but all of our marketing has been based in the UK. So in short, it's basically reached these other geographies with no intentional effort. So it's just people searching us on Google, or our TikToks hitting them, or SEO. And so I think there is a huge opportunity to launch in markets officially, and that is something both Joe and I really want to do next year. It's on our radar for 2025, and I think the market we really want to get into is the US. So Luna is actually not live in the USA. It's actually the only market you can't access Luna in, and that's because we just wanted to make sure when we launch there, we're covered from a data perspective there, and that everything is compliant. But let me tell you now, Asim, the amount of times daily we are getting comments from US teenagers saying like, when is it coming to the US?
No way.
I even had an email from a teenager being like, hi, I joined the wait list. Can I have a date, please? I'm not joking.
Wow.
I'll show you after this.
That's a good problem to have.
No problem, but give me some sass. And I was like, Sophie from California, like, you're going to have to chill. It takes a lot of time and money to launch another country. But I think that is what we really want to do next year, because the US market is massive. There's clearly a demand for it, and different dynamics when it comes to health and well-being there. So I think alongside obviously revenue, reaching more parents, cracking a new market is on the horizon for us, and probably America, to keep those teens chilling.
Well, yeah, I mean, definitely America's a huge market. I mean, we tried opening America as well, but I think rightly so, you guys are also taking it in phases, because we tried opening America, and I mean, we do service America, but it's just been organic. We've not really opened the market per se.
Yeah.
Because when we tried to do that, we quickly understood that opening America is not like opening a new country. It's opening a new world altogether.
Yeah.
So, compliance, yes, but also in terms of doing it right.
100%.
So the funding that you have, and, whatever little bit validation that you have, and off the back of it, again, just doing it right.
Yeah. And I think for us, it will probably be more of like a soft launch, prove there's like validation there. And then if we see it working well, I think people even have to move across to America to really make it work. I've been speaking to other founders that have literally relocated to be there, to set up a team there, to meet with investors then. Because it is such a massive market, it's different dynamics. It's a whole new ball game. But, there's no point going 150% into it if you've not even soft tested it. So, yeah, totally hear you. It's a different ball game out there, isn't it?
Did you expect this journey to be what it is when you first started?
I don't even know what I expected. When I first
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I just don't think I had time to really think about it. I think I'm very lucky that I had a year off from work to do my MBA. As a full-time program. And so I guess I'd got used to the student life again and exploring new things. And, I'd really taken a massive risk to do this MBA. At the time, I was like, well, what is like another year of risks? Most MBA programs are 2 years. So we'll just consider it like that. And so with that in mind, I didn't spend hours and hours thinking like, oh, am I going to do this? Am I not going to do this? I think, well, there was some element of that. But I think once I'd heard the teenagers be like, this is a great idea. And once I'd actually got the blessing from my parents, because I was really scared about telling them, but they were so on it. I mean, my mum was Luna's #1 fan. I think I was like, man, I'm here for it. And was it what I expected? I genuinely don't know what I expected. I think I knew it was always going to be hard. Maybe I didn't know it was going to be like this hard, in the sense that, like, I guess you see headlines all the time, right? Of like, oh, this company raised this amount of money and they've launched here and here. It makes it seem like so easy. But going back to your point, so much work goes into even the smallest of milestones. And those sifted TechCrunch, BBC articles or interviews, like, do not go into the level of detail that entrepreneurs are doing behind the scenes. So yeah, I guess I thought it would be hard, for maybe a different type of hard to what I'm experiencing now. But my God, it's the best thing ever. Honestly, I don't think I know what I would do other than building Luna right now. I don't want to do anything else, honestly. So don't ask me what I would do next, because I don't know.
Yeah. Do you think one needs to absolutely have a purpose before starting this journey, or not really needed, grit somehow or some other aspect is enough?
Do you mean like, when you say purpose, do you mean passion for the mission?
Yeah, like a deep core centered purpose. I mean, from off the back of, okay, so I've had corporate jobs and I've had different businesses. I was asked this question a couple of years ago when I first started Plum, and my answer was kind of similar to yours, where I had no idea how difficult this journey would be, but I'm also grateful that I did not have any clue, because if I did, I would have perhaps never started.
Yeah.
And I'm ever so grateful that I did, So yeah, so I think that is the way I look at it. So I just want to understand from your end, or from like what keeps you going? Why are you still here?
Yeah. Now that, I completely agree with everything you said. And I think you 100 million% have to have purpose to be an entrepreneur, no matter what you're building, really, whether it's a tech company, a consulting business, whatever it is, you really have to deeply believe in what you're doing beyond, like you said, just a TechCrunch article or an exit. And for me, the thing that keeps me going is, one, I know it's an exceptional idea. I just really believe in Luna so much. And like I said before, every woman I always speaks to, no matter their age, always tells me, I wish this was around when I was younger. And so it just needs to exist. But number two, the feedback we get from teenagers directly about how much Luna is impacting and changing their life keeps me going. And that feedback is daily. So in our app, we have a feedback box that's connected to our Slack. And so teens can literally leave us any feedback from, I didn't really like this article, or I didn't understand this article, or can you do some content on this, or you have a bug in your app, through to like, thank you, Luna, like you really motivated me, or you really helped me through this. And I think those messages, coupled with the reviews we get on the App Store as well, keep us motivated, and I guess just keep the belief that what we're doing is amazing, and we are still at like the early stages of what we're doing and what we could potentially do to reach boys, to support parents, to support younger tweens. It's all up for grabs, and we want to go after it all. Why not? So yeah, I think genuinely that is what keeps me going, and I wake up every morning like ready to go. I'm not like, no. I now got to like get all the way to Canary Wharf or whatever it is. Yeah, genuinely love it. I'm ready to attack. Like, what's on the to-do list? Let's go. So yeah, that fire is definitely still there for me. Although I'm ready for a break pretty soon. Yeah. I need a holiday at Christmas.
Yeah, that's actually a good point as well. I think, yes, the hustle culture is on. If you don't hustle, you don't eat and all that. But yeah, your cup needs to be full. I think that's super important.
Yeah, definitely.
What would you say to you've obviously come a long way. What would you say to the Jass who was in school, who had, who felt different, who had darker hair than other girls around her, who came back home and just was confused? What would you tell that girl today?
Great question. I would just say, listen to your mum. Like, my mum's like, you will be Prime Minister, like, you will do something amazing. And yeah, here I am now. So yeah.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Jass. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you. And I hope that this was helpful for the listeners as much as it was for me. All the parents listening, they know where to find Jass. I found you on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I think you're doing a great job. So Jass is all over LinkedIn, but you can find Luna on the App Store.
Yeah, iOS. Yeah, iOS, Android. Can get us on iPad as well. So not just limited to smartphones.
And you guys are only growing. And for the parents and listeners, other teenage girls who are in America, please hold.
Yeah,
Luna's coming.
Hold the line of Rosal. Yeah, coming.
Luna's coming.
Don't you worry.
Thank you, Jass.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure talking to you. All the best.
Thank you so much.